we're just going to go over a little bit of crime scene, crime and accident scene stuff real quick. If you believe a crime has been committed on scene, immediately contact law enforcement if they're not already there, or if they're already there, you may just ask just to be sure that they may of what you think, or if you have information that they may not be privy to. Above all, protect yourself and the safety of other EMS personnel. You and your partner are the primary consideration here. Yes, there is a victim, otherwise you wouldn't be there, but your guys' safety is it. Because if you are attacked or shot or injured or anything else by a potential criminal act, or to cover up a criminal act, then you're not any good to anybody else and you're not going to help anybody. So you got to protect yourself and your safety and your crew. Once the crime scene is deemed safe, initiate patient contact and medical care with due regard for preserving evidence as much as possible. So you're not going to move or touch anything at the crime scene unless it's necessary for the patient care. If you do have to move something, notify the law enforcement, say just quick, hey, I got to move this. And let them know that something is being moved from where it was. Document it in your paperwork, so more attention is going to need to be kept during these times. Do your best to protect potential evidence. So if it's a gunshot wound or a stabbing or something like that, and there's clothes involved, cut around the stabbing, cut around the holes created by the perceived criminal act to preserve that, so it can be either tested or matched against the potential or suspected weapon. If you need to remove items from the scene, be sure to document your actions and notify investigating officers. Like I said, let them know that you're moving something, or let them know what you found, just in case they may have not seen it or have missed it. And so that they can note that in their notes that that was found in this location and it was moved by EMS or whatever needs to be documented. Treat the accident of an accident in the same way. There is going to be an investigation, and there is potential that that accident was maybe not an accident, but maybe a criminal act, or it may have been an accident that results in a criminal charge. Again, anything that's moved or in the way of patient care needs to be documented, needs to be communicated and documented. Ensure your own safety and the safety of your crew. Allow the fire department or rescue to secure a scene. Treat your patients as medically indicated. Do not withhold treatment just because you suspect something. You're going to treat the patient regardless. Use all the resources available to you on the scenes, and be prepared to summon additional personnel and equipment as needed. I'm going to just continue on here with duty to report. When abuse or neglect is suspected, you must balance the need to protect patient confidentiality against the need to notify proper authorities. If this is criminal neglect or abuse, then there are mandatory reporting guidelines for EMS personnel. We have to act with the patient's best interests in mind, and again, we have rules and laws and statutes and regulation that requires that we report suspected abuse to proper authorities. We do not confront the abuser. That is not helpful to anybody and could potentially get you injured and or hurt, or hurt and or killed, which will again not benefit anybody in this instance. It is not necessary for you to prove abuse or neglect occurred before reporting. You have to suspect it. And it has to be a legitimate suspicion. It's not just because you don't like this person or anything like that. We are trained to recognize abuse. We are trained to recognize neglect. We need to know that. We know what to look for, and we need to report that. Failure to report abuse or neglect is a bigger liability than not reporting, or than reporting it. So if we report it in good faith and nothing comes of it, then okay. But if we don't report it and something comes of it, and they know we didn't report it, that's where if problems come in. Problems for us. When we document, a well-documented patient care report is completed promptly after the patient contact. That is when your memory is fresh. It needs to be done right away. Throughout this class, we will have, the expectation is that you will sit down and you will write your report immediately following the call as needed. If you are immediately called into another scenario or another lab situation or another call during field internship or into another room in clinicals, then of course you are going to put off that documentation for a little bit. However, I strongly suggest you take notes, and this will follow you through into your calls. You're all patient care. You all are in patient care, and you all know how to document. As a paramedic, your requirements and your expectations are greatly increased over where you are now due to the responsibilities and requirements of the job. So completing that patient care report as soon as possible is not only an expectation, but it is basically required. It's got to be thorough. It has to be objective, and it has to be accurate. It also has to maintain patient confidentiality. Only what you were there for, what you observed, and what you did, and how the patient reacted to that. We need to make sure that as we go through, we're going to be exposed to this a little bit more. As you are in clinicals or running scenarios, you'll be started with this, and then as we get into clinicals and into field internship, your documentation is due 12 hours after your shift ends. I would like it to be done much sooner than that. I would rather it be turned in at the end of your shift, if possible. But at the most, you will have 12 hours past your shift to get your documentation completed and turned in. Otherwise, it will be not accepted. Complete a well-written patient care report is your best protection against malpractice action. We've been talking about this all the way through. Documentation, documentation, documentation. It's got to be complete, it's got to be thorough, and it has to be accurate. This is going to be your best help in the form of a lawsuit, especially if it's a liability lawsuit on you, where you're being accused of malpractice. This is because if you did not write it down, you didn't do it. If it's not written, it wasn't done. If patient care is incomplete or inaccurate, a written amendment should be attached. You can go in and you can amend. It will not change your original narrative, but it will be an addendum that states what was inaccurate or what was left out or whatever, and it should be done as soon as possible. As soon as the omission or the inaccuracy was noted, you should have that addendum or amendment made. Medical records maintained for a period of time as prescribed by state law. Those the patient care reports are kept for, I believe it's 7 years, and at which case they can be destroyed after 7 years. But that's an administrative concern. Unless you're in that role, then it's your concern. But that's where we are with documentation. EPCRs, such as this one, are becoming more and more common. There are lots of commercial programs out there as well as the state-supplied ones. Kempsis in the state is pretty good. It does fall under pretty much a template and has the diagrams like this for showing injury or complaint locations. It's very nice. I liked using it when I was on the street. They're very handy and they help you visualize better with the narrative as well. After this is employment law and stuff like that. You guys can read that on your own. I don't need to bore you any further than I already have. So this is the end of Medical Eagle.